Good evening, councillors, staff members, members of the public, both here and joining us online. This meeting is being live streamed, so thank you for joining us here, and for anyone joining online as well, thank you for joining us. I will declare this meeting open at 5:30, and in doing so, would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Noongar Wadandi people, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal community, to their culture and to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for attending us. I noticed there's a number of people in the room here who, if you haven't been to an OCM before, this is an official council meeting where we follow our standing orders. There are some public participations during public question time. Other than that, this is the time for council to make decisions on the agenda. The agenda is normally behind me and the items we're dealing on, but you should have agendas in front of you as well. I do also note former councillor, former Deputy Mayor Brendan Kelly and former councillor Ralph Steen in the room as well. Thank you for joining us. Okay, let's moving along to the meeting for this evening. We have Councillor Turner is on, there's no answers from myself. Councillor Turner is on leave, on approved leave. The rest of us are here. I understand we have two declarations of interest which have been received. They are impartial interests on 10.3.3 and 10.4.3. The impartial interests mean that they will stay in the room for the debate and voting. Are there any other declarations of interest on the agenda for this evening, councillors? Councillor Quain?
I'm also the councillor representing on item 10.3.3.
So impartial interest, is it Councillor Quain? Yes. Great. If you could fill that form out, that would be fantastic. So Councillor Quain has declared an impartial interest on 10.3.3. Impartial interest, so Councillor Quain will remain in the room. Is there any other declaration of interest? Councillor Smith?
Mr Mayor, I probably have to concur with Councillor Quain because I'm also on that committee. Thank you.
Sure. Another impartial interest for the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Smith, impartial interest. Are there any other declarations of interest, Councillor Ramesh?
Same. I've been in the group.
And do we all want to declare an interest in 10.3.3? That's fine. So that will also be an impartial interest on that item. Once again, impartial interests noted and remain in the room. Any other declarations of interest? Thank you. So we move along to public question time now. We have received 4 different sets of questions from the public. We will work our way through these. I think the CEO has responses for all of these and we'll see how we go. But we'll ask Simon Merriweather to join us first, Simon. So if you just indicate we're not asking full address, just your suburb is fine. Thanks, Simon, and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. My name's Simon Merriweather. I'm a resident of South Bunbury. The Punchbowl site has experienced a significant reduction in tree cover over time, so it is a visible example of how canopy can be lost through incremental decisions. As council progresses this site for development, it presents an important opportunity to demonstrate a different approach. So my question is, given Lot 211 and 501 Holywell Street, South Bunbury, known as the Punchbowl, is a significant vegetated site, what specific mechanisms will be used to retain existing mature trees rather than relying primarily on replacement plantings? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. We are dealing with this particular item later in the agenda, or a proposal for Holywell Street. That item, depending on council's decision tonight, will be going out for public advertising in a 42-day period, including any plans around that. And obviously, there's the opportunity for members of the public to review that and make comment before ultimately council makes a decision when that returns. But I'm sure the CEO, I believe the CEO has a full response for that as well. CEO, for you.
Thanks, Mayor. The site contains established trees, predominantly introduced species, and the city is committed to retaining trees where practicable. In terms of the specific mechanisms available, there are several that apply regardless of how the site is ultimately developed. First, a tree assessment can be undertaken for each tree on the site to determine its significance and identify candidates for retention. The city has already indicated that this will occur before any agreements are finalised. Second, at the subdivision stage, the city has the ability to influence design to protect to protect trees identified for retention. The WAPC can also impose conditions requiring retention of significant trees where they are not adversely impacted by subdivision works. Third, the subdivision design can incorporate public open space where appropriate, which provides mechanisms to protect significant trees within dedicated green space rather than on individual lots. And fourthly, the residential design codes require deep soil areas capable of supporting tree growth on each lot. This is assessed at the development application stage. The city is committed to working with any development partner to achieve a site-responsive design that retains trees where practicable. The developer has also indicated willingness to retain trees as part of the approach. A vegetation review will be undertaken before any agreements are finalised. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO. Thank you for your questions, Simon. Judith Smith. Judy?
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name's Judith Smith and I live in South Bunbury. At the time that the councillors voted to continue with the sale of 89 Beach Road, the Mayor said that this will not be a popular decision. But I'm not sure if he and the City of Bunbury realised exactly the extent of the community outrage. This has actually meant it's undermined the community's opinion and trust of the City of Bunbury's decision-making. I know some councillors have received many messages, and some not very pleasant, expressing that displeasure. And on a personal level, we have had people knock on our door wanting to know, what can we do now? We don't want the platitudes that continually tell us we have our chance when an offer is presented. We want to know, 1, how long a time frame is 89 Beach Road listed with the selling agent as indefinite is not acceptable to the nearly 600 people who signed that petition? Question 2, if no offer is forthcoming in an agreeable time frame, is the City of Bunbury prepared to re-evaluate the purpose of 89 Beach Road? Question 3. In last week's local paper, the state budget announced that the southwest will have 131,171 blocks of land released for construction. I believe 300 of those are specifically in Bunbury. This is in addition to the City of Bunbury's own published list of land to sell and develop. So, City of Bunbury, will you acknowledge and rethink the value of 2 houses on 89 Beach Road for the loss of the treed environment when there are better options for affordable housing becoming available?
Thank you. Thanks for your question, Judy. 1 and 2 are probably operational, and I'll pass those to the CEO. I think question 3 is probably more of a question for elected members, and I'll allow that as a generic question for them to consider should an offer be considered back by council at a later date. But CEO, I'll ask you to answer the question 1 or 2 around those 2 questions.
Thanks, Mayor. In relation to question 1, the City has a marketing agreement in place with Summit Realty. The terms of that agreement are a commercial matter between the City and its appointed agent. This is standard practice for the marketing of City-owned land. However, I can advise that the City today has received a formal offer on 89 Beach Road. This offer will be considered by Council as part of the ongoing sale process. Under Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act, any proposed disposal must be publicly advertised for a minimum of 14 days before a final decision is made, meaning the community will have a formal opportunity to review the details and make submission before Council determines the outcome. We anticipate being in a position to provide further detail in the coming weeks. In relation to question 2, as I've just advised, the City has received a formal offer. This offer will be considered by Council as part of the ongoing sale process. To directly answer your question, an offer has been forthcoming and the process is progressing. Under Section 358 of the Local Government Act, any proposed disposal will be publicly advertised as I've outlined before a final decision is made. The community will have the formal opportunity to review the details and make a decision before Council determines the outcome. And again, we anticipate being in a position to provide further detail in the coming weeks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Canella Hope.
Good afternoon, councillors. I'm Canella Hope and I live in South Bunbury. Relative to the sale of 89 Beach Road and other land rationalisation matters, reference keeps being made to the City of Bunbury response to the housing crisis. Despite this, there does not seem to be an adopted public city position statement or action plan or the like about the city's housing crisis response. How does the city define this housing crisis, specifically what it means and the ability that the City of Bunbury has to respond to it, including in context of existing city adopted positions, such as in the housing local planning strategy? Question 2. Recently, geotechnical testing occurred at 89 Beach Road. This was welcomed, but it was limited and it was too shallow. At the 21st of April briefing session, a former neighbour spoke of witnessing uncontrolled landfilling occurring here back in the late 1980s and to depths greater than 2 metres. Why was this testing not drilled deeper to at least 6 metres? And can this geotechnical report please be made publicly available? And question 3, when landfilling is suspected, the landowner has obligation to report this to the state government, DWA, Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, as a potentially contaminated site. Has the City of Bunbury fulfilled its obligations, and if not, why not?
Thanks, Canal. They are quite administrative in questions. I might refer that to the CEO to answer. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. The City's reference to the housing shortage is not made loosely. It is evidenced by historically low vacancy rates, significant rental price increases, growing wait lists for social and community housing, and sustained pressure from both the community and the state government to act. The City has been clear and consistent about its scope. We are not a housing developer. We do not fund or deliver emergency accommodation. That is a state government responsibility. What we can do is make city-owned land available, remove planning barriers, advocate for state investment, collaborate with housing providers, regulate short-term rentals to protect long-term supply, and plan strategically for future housing needs. The City's local housing strategy is the adopted strategic document that guides this work. It establishes that existing urban zone land in Bunbury can accommodate between 9,147 and 16,500 new homes. The land rationalisation program operates within that framework, not separate from it. In terms of an action plan, the City presented a comprehensive report to Council in July 2025 and has endorsed strategic advocacy priorities. The response is not a single document, it's a coordinated body of work across advocacy, planning, land activation, regulation and partnership. Full details are publicly available on the City's website. In relation to question 2, the geotech investigation was undertaken using a small excavator to a depth of 2 metres, which was the practical limit of the equipment on site. The investigation confirmed the site contains construction rubble and uncontrolled fill to the full depth tested, likely extending to approximately 3 metres based on the consultant's professional assessment of surrounding ground levels, historical data and the groundwater depth in the area. This provides important context on the site. This is not an undisturbed natural land. It has contained construction fill for over 65 years, placed before 1959. This predates the City's ownership by more than a decade. In terms of whether deeper testing is required, the City's qualified geotechnical consultant has assessed the site and recommended piled op foundations as the appropriate construction method. Pile foundations are well-established engineering solution for sites with variable ground conditions and are designed to bear into stable ground below the fill level regardless of its exact depth. This means that the precise depth of fill does not need to be determined at this stage. It will be resolved through the foundation design process at the building permit stage, which is the responsibility of the purchaser. No further geotechnical investigation by the City is required at this stage. The findings will be disclosed to the prospective purchasers as part of the standard due diligence so they can make informed decisions and design foundations accordingly. Regarding making the report publicly available, the City will take that on notice and provide advice on the appropriate mechanism for release. In relation to the third question, the City has received the Geotech report, as I've just outlined. It is currently assessing its obligations under the Contaminated Sites Act 2003 in consultation with its own environmental team. The City takes its legislative obligations seriously and will act in accordance with professional advice, and we will provide a written response once we've received that advice. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. And last question is from Jay Reynolds. Jay? I think you've got the handheld mic, I think, Jay, yeah. Yeah, I think that.
Righto, gotcha.
Yes, the one, thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions here this evening. Before I start there, just apologies for a few typos in my questions here. I was in a bit of a rush yesterday afternoon getting these out. So question number one I have is, the Balters Heights Reserve Master Plan sets out City of Bunbury commitments, including how it will be funded. When it is recognised as regional level parkland, why has the same master plan process with community engagement and careful investigation to understand the environmental, community and open space value not occurred for the Big Swamp parklands, including the entrances such as 89 Beach Road?
Thanks, Jay. If you ask your questions, then we'll respond to those. Thank you. Thank you.
Question number two. The Balters Heights Reserve Master Plan says most of the funding to improve this reserve will not come from ratepayers. How much money has the City of Bunbury expended on Balters Heights? How much more is planned to be spent, and where is the money coming from? Question three. My children and many others ride around the Big Swamp and to attend Bunbury Primary School. The new median on Beach Road that the City recently installed was a welcome safety addition. How will sightlines and the overall safety of my children be protected if 89 Beach Road is sold and developed with high fencing to its tidal boundaries, taking away the existing sightlines that presently exist here and which benefit this popular walking and riding route?
Thanks for your questions, Jay. I'll note there was a Big Swamp Master Plan. I was on council when that was approved, and I know there was considerable community consultation during that process, including a reference group and a councillor steering group. But I might defer to the CEO for the detailed responses to your questions. So, CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. The Balters Heights Reserve Master Plan was prepared for a site with significant environmental and recreational values requiring long-term management planning. That is an appropriate process for that type of reserve. 89 Beach Road is not a regional open space. It is not part of the Big Swamp Nature Reserve. It is a separate residentially zoned lot that has been zoned residential since 2015. The Big Swamp Nature Reserve itself has been subject to planning, including the Big Swamp Master Plan that the Mayor just outlined, and concept development plan. That work considered the environmental and recreational values of the reserve. 89 Beach Road was not included because it is not part of the reserve. A master plan process is appropriate for regional open space reserves with significant environmental and community values. It is not the appropriate mechanism for a vacant residential lot. These are fundamentally different land classifications requiring different planning approaches. The City's formal submission to the WA Planning Commission during the 2015 rezoning confirmed that the lot has no specific name, no recreational infrastructure, no identified function as open space, and no conditions on the title requiring its retention. Council made its decision through the proper process. In relation to question two, we will take that on notice in terms of the financial details regarding Balters Heights. There is a master plan that has been done, and there is engineering work that's been done that we're currently assessing against that master plan, but we'll take that on notice. In relation to the third question, any future development on this site will be subject to standard planning and development approvals, which include assessment of vehicle access, sightlines and pedestrian safety. The residential design codes specifically address matters including driveway locations, visual sightlines or crossovers, and fencing within front setback areas. These are standard requirements that apply to every residential development in the city and exist precisely to protect the safety of people using adjacent footpaths and roads. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you for those who've asked questions. We're going to continue with the agenda. There are a number of things to work through this evening, including Holywell Street, which was mentioned, and some fees and charges, some interesting things. So you're more than welcome to stay, but if anyone was here for only the Beach Road questions, obviously you can leave now, but you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We will proceed. Thank you. So, councillors, we have confirmations of the minutes from the previous OCM. Somebody happy to move those? Yeah. And seconded by Councillor Smith. And yeah, is there likely to be any debate on that? I'll put that. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. While a few people are going, you can stay or leave as long as you like, and don't feel obliged that you need to stay when you can get up and leave at any stage. So just notice there's a few people looking around there. You're not going to be rude if you would want to. But also encourage you to stay. Council, minutes from the Policy Review and Development Committee. Anyone like to move that they are true and accurate? Councillor Kozisek, is there a seconder? Councillor Broad, is there likely to be debate on this particular item? I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. We have not received any petitions that I'm aware of, councillors. Nothing to lodge from petition-wise. There are no presentations or deputations received for this evening. So, into the agenda itself, and I have a few items to come out for further discussion. 10.1.2 requires an absolute majority. 10.3.2 does require some nominations. 10.3.5 has been flagged to come out for discussion. 10.3.6 does require an absolute majority. 10.4.2 has been flagged to come out for discussion from Councillor Broad. And 10.4.3 also has been flagged to come out for discussion. Councillor Kozisek, sorry, you did indicate you wanted to discuss 10.1.1. Is there any other items to come out for discussion, councillors? Councillor Ramesh?
Just a query and clarification on 10.5.2.
10.5.2, so you'd like that out for discussion? Yeah. Or just a question on that, we can do that, yeah. 10.5.2. Now, the other one I haven't got, which I think Councillor Kozisek, you indicated you wanted to speak to as well, was 10.3.3.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I thought we both, yeah.
I'll run through the ones again to come out for discussion. 10.1.1, 10.1.2, 10.3.2, 10.3.3, 10.3.5, 10.3.6, 10.4.2, 10.4.3 and 10.5.2. Is there any others anyone would like to discuss? Councillor Gassett?
10.1.4, please.
10.1.4. Any others? I'm just going to clarify for the members of the audience, because someone asked me this question before. So what we're dealing with here is any item I've just read out is going to have further conversation. In our agenda, there's a number of reports which are sometimes either committee recommendations. So what we're doing here is any of those ones that don't need further conversation, I'm now going to ask to be moved on block and will be passed as written. So, if that's the case, would somebody like to move the remainder of those items moved on block? Councillor Ramesh and seconded by Councillor Brown. I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. So, any of the items that we don't deal with tonight have already been moved now and passed as written. So, we now work our way through the other agenda items, though, have been taken out for discussion. So, item 10.1.1 is a committee recommendation from the Policy Committee on the private use of the mayoral vehicle. Could we have somebody move this policy as it is with no changes? Anyone would like to move that? Councillor Smith and seconded by Councillor Ramesh. I'm assuming there's going to be some date here. Councillor Kozisek, do you have any questions? A statement that you're going to debate, speaking against, yeah? Councillor Smith, would you like to note or open debate?
Not really, Mr Mayor. I really moved it to get it on the table,
sure.
Seeing that Councillor Kozisek wants to make a statement. Thank
sure.
you.
Yep. Councillor Ramesh, the seconder?
Nothing.
Nothing from you? A speaker against, Councillor Kozisek.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate, as Chair of the Policy Committee, I did at the time not agree with this decision, and that's fine. We are a democracy, but I felt that I would be remiss if I didn't speak about my views on the policy. Everybody will be aware that our current Mayor does not use a city-supplied vehicle, and I do believe that we have disposed of that vehicle. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway. I actually think that times have changed. We're not a large city. We don't have a large geographical footprint, unlike many other cities and shires where a lot of travelling is required. And I think that there are options. The city would be paying costs for a vehicle, insurance, rego, etc., when it's not used particularly often and not needed. And there are other transport methods that are available. For instance, I believe there are fleet vehicles that are available at times for the Mayor. He often gets a lift with a staff member or the CEO. And the other option, of course, is that he has a claim on expenses for using his vehicle. Those things, to me, would make it more simple not to have a mayoral vehicle, to remove the policy completely and save our ratepayers from the expense of this vehicle. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kozisek. Is there a speaker for the recommendation or committee recommendation? Councillor Broad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason why I voted to keep the policy in the pool of our policies was if the Mayor changes hands over the coming years, I'm sure that will happen. We then have to go and the next Mayor may want to have a car, which he or she is rightfully able to do. Then rewriting a policy is going to take not only staff time but our time to rewrite that. I don't see any problem with keeping the policy in the pool, and I don't know what the answer is about the vehicle where it presently is, but I think that we're talking about the policy here to keep that in. Thank you.
Is there a speaker against the committee recommendation? Councillor Gassett.
I'll speak against, Mr. Mayor. I do want to publicly acknowledge the fact that you, Mr. Mayor, have handed in your keys. I think that's a very noble act, actually. And it's probably a very good example of that people could follow to look at minimising expenditure and the rates for our ratepayers. It's a very good example. So the fact that we're leaving that in, I disagree with. If a future Mayor does come along and they want a car, then I guess it's up to that future Mayor to convince council to change the policy, quite frankly. So if we don't need it, you don't want it, you don't want the car, Mr. Mayor, you've handed it in at a considerable cost to the saving to the community, well, let's get rid of it. Get rid of the paperwork.
A speaker for the committee recommendation. Councillor Smith to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've probably spent enough time on this issue, so I haven't got anything further to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll put the committee recommendation as written. Those in favour, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? Oh, no. That vote is a tie. I will use my casting vote, though, to stay with the committee's recommendation, which will be retaining that policy. I won't vote against the committee. So I'll use my casting vote to support the committee recommendation. Okay, that committee recommendation is carried then with 5 votes to 4 with a casting vote used. Thank you. 10.1.2. Review of the... Oh, this requires an absolute majority. Sorry, councillors, that's why this is required to come out. If somebody would like to move this particular recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Kozisek, as a seconder. Councillor Quain. Is there likely to be any debate on this item? If that's the case, I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. (10.1.4). Do you have a question on this, Councillor Gassop, or debating?
I'd like to debate or speak to it.
Sure, I'll get this on the table then. Could I have somebody move the committee recommendation? Councillor Quain, is there a seconder? Councillor Kozisek, thank you. Councillor Quain?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just moving the motion so that Councillor Gassop could speak to it.
Sure. Seconder, Councillor Kozisek, anything to add? You reserve your right. Councillor Gassop? Speakers against?
Yeah,
Councillor
look, I'll
Gassop?
speak against. I might still vote for it, but I'm trying to make some points in a way, Mr Mayor. The council would be aware that there's a Royal Commission into anti-Semitism, and there's been some indications and allegations that members of our community have tried to influence people that they shouldn't be. And having a read of the terms of reference of the Royal Commission, it certainly does cover equal opportunities and things of that regards. I have to declare that I've actually made a submission to the Royal Commission, and I encourage, and I have put in a motion to this council to consider putting in a submission. I won't say what the response is, but I do encourage councillors, if they've come across any sort of influencing approaches from people who've got anti-Semitic, neo-Nazi, fascist tendencies to try to influence organisations, that they can also put in a submission. It's a very serious matter. It's probably the most serious matter, to the point where we have got a Royal Commission. So that's one point. The other point, Mr Mayor, is who this policy actually applies to in terms of protection. It references employees, it references the community, but it's quite silent on elected members. And having some fair bit of experience with how things work, Occupational Health and Safety Act, elected members are in a state of limbo. We don't know whether we are covered under the Work Health and Safety Act or not. There is a comment in the legislation that we can be considered as others in the clauses, but there's a lot of dissent about whether we're covered or not. But it'd be very lovely if we can get some sort of confirmation, besides staff, besides employees, besides members of the community, whether councillors have got any right in terms of occupational health and safety, and whether they're covered specifically in this equal opportunities policy. It'd be good to get some feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gassop. But there a speaker for the committee recommendation? Councillor Quain to close.
Thank you, Mayor. No further comment.
Thank you. I'll put the committee recommendation. Those in favour, please indicate. Those against? One against. That is carried. Thank you. So 10.3.2, councillors, this does require nominations. Now, I did ask last week for any prospective nominations, and 3 that were there were Councillor Turner, Councillor Ramesh, Councillor Quain. So we can fill in those blanks, but I will happily take any other nominations should there be any. Is there any other nominations for members to be on the Grants Assessment Panel? If there's not, that makes things a lot easier. We can fill the blanks in, and I could have somebody move that that's the executive recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Quain. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ramesh? I doubt there's going to be any debate on this, councillors. If that's the case, I'll put it. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, and thank you for those councillors for putting their hands up for that panel. Councillor, we've got 10.3.3. I know there's a couple of questions around the confidential items, so with your leave, I will happily put that to the back of the agenda so we don't have to ask the members of the public to leave the room and bring them back in. If council are comfortable with that, we'll continue and we'll revert back to 10.3.3 as the last item on the agenda. Thank you. 10.3.5 is the proposed rate increase and advertising of the differential rates for 2026-27. Councillors, we have an executive recommendation there as written in front of us, which requires the CEO to prepare the draft and also go out for advertising with differential rates and reasons. Is there somebody who would want to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Broad, is there a seconder to that? Councillor Brown. I'm assuming there will be some debate on this, councillors, so I'll move to Councillor Broad to start. Councillor Broad?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to talk in support of the executive recommendation to the proposed 6.7% rate increase, of which 1% is allocated or going to be allocated for asset management. The proposed increase will ensure the continued delivery of vital services that our residents rely on. Like many local governments, we're facing rising costs, which necessitates an adjustment in rates to maintain our service levels. Allocating 1% of the increase to an asset management and repairs reserve is a proactive measure that will help us manage and maintain our community assets effectively, preventing larger, unexpected costs in the future. If we do not implement an annual rate increase, the compounding effect of this decision could result in more severe financial burdens for our ratepayers in the long run. By investing in our infrastructure now, we can ensure that our facilities and assets remain safe, functional and beneficial to the community for years to come. As Bunbury continues to grow, it's imperative that we invest in our future. A well-maintained and effectively managed community is more attractive to potential investors and businesses, fostering economic growth. It's important to note that for an average residential ratepayer, the increase will be approximately $144 per year, which is less than a cup of coffee a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Broad. Councillor Brown.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. This is probably a councillor's most important decision each year and is the matter that is most critical to the future well-being of the City of Bunbury. We stand at a crossroads where difficult but necessary decisions must be made to ensure the sustainability and prosperity of our community for generations to come. The core of our challenge lies in managing a diverse portfolio of assets valued at over $500 million. These roads, bridges, parks and facilities are the backbone of our community, but as their custodians, we have a duty to ensure they are adequately maintained. We must recognise that we are essentially in the infrastructure business, and the cost of infrastructure and labour are hitting local governments hard, often rising well above CPI. For context, look at the Bunbury Outer Ring Road, which saw costs escalate by 65%, from $850 million to $1.4 billion. Likewise, the state budget showed blowouts in the cost of the new extensions to the regional hospital. To meet these rising costs and deliver the services our community expect, the 26-27 budget proposes a 6.7% rate increase. This is not an arbitrary figure, it is a strategic response to a fiscal reality. The increase is carefully split. 5.7% is required to fund the draft budget operations, while an additional 1% is dedicated to asset management reserve. This specific 1% allocation, approximately $530,000, is vital to improving the life of the existing infrastructure, including our roads, drainage, marine walls, and open spaces. We understand the financial pressure on our residents. For the average residential ratepayer, this increase represents a change of $144. Please be assured this decision has not been taken lightly. To minimise this impact, the executive and staff conducted a comprehensive review, resulting in $3.6 million in project expenditure reductions and $713,000 in recurrent operating cost savings. We have cut back as far as possible without jeopardising the delivery of vital services that our community relies on. This prudent and necessary measure is about more than just a single year's budget. It is part of a broader strategy to ensure long-term financial stability. By taking these proactive steps now, we safeguard against future uncertainties and position Bunbury for continued growth and prosperity. I urge you to support this proposal as an act of fiscal responsibility and a commitment to the assets that define our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Gassett.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The easiest thing in the world is to just ask the ratepayers to contribute more to our budget. That's the easiest thing. Most difficult thing is to keep the rates low. I have to acknowledge one thing at the outset. I am very aware that the staff or the city officers have really done a lot of work in trying to minimise the budget, so I have to recognise that. Mr Mayor, look, the argument about costs, procurement costs, construction costs and costs of goods. So we have a local government cost index that was provided by, I believe, one of the best financial managers in Australia in local government, David Ransom. So the cost index for this year, according to Mr Ransom, is 3.1%. Last year, 3.8%. And we are looking at 6.7%. I just wanted to make that at the outset. So, Mayor, a lot of people cannot afford to eat, let alone buy a cup of coffee with spare cash. Right? So let me just quote some figures. I'm not going to convince anybody, but I need to justify to the community why I'm speaking against this rate rise. So the 4 years, City of Bunbury, let's go to 5 years if you include this proposed rate rise. The 5 years, 32.2% or 34% if you compound it. Understand that, Mr Mayor? That's what we're looking at. Over 5 years, 34% increase in rate rises. Compare that to CPI, per CPI, which is the prescribed reference index. 34%, 24% per CPI over the same period compounded. Cost index, which is the I guess what the previous speakers were referring to, the cost of goods. I'll give you the actual proper definition. Local Government Cost Index is a specialised inflation measure used by the Local Government Association to track changes in the cost of goods, services, labour purchases by council. So that cost index over the last 5 years, including this year, is 23% compounded. So we've got 34% council, CPI 24%, cost index 23%. So we're talking about 50% higher than these indexes that we are asking the community to contribute to. Bearing in mind it's 3.1% this year, cost index. So those figures, the 34% is the average. That, if you look at the spike we had last year because of the differential rate for commercial and businesses, that 34% is closer to 37% that businesses have to contribute in actual compounded rate rises. If you look at the spike because of the valuation in Withers and Kerry Park last year, because of gross rental value revaluation, that figure is closer to 36%, so they get hit a bit harder. If you allow for the waste management from a couple of years ago, that 34% is going to be about 35.5% over 5 years. So, Mr Mayor, solutions. I'm not just going to get up here and whinge, but there's solutions. You've got cost, or expenditure, and you've got income. We expect, if there's a shortfall, to have a balanced budget. We'll hit up the ratepayers, commercial ratepayers, residential ratepayers, and eventually flows into all the community. Now, as soon as we adopt this tonight, you know what the property manager is going to be doing, whether it's residential or commercial, they'll be including this in their annual reviews immediately. So, solution one is look at expenditure, and I believe if we have to drastically scale back things, well, we have to. Two, I've raised it before, it's a longer term thing, aspiration, increase the zoning density across Bunbury. That benefits everyone. 3, Mr Mayor, our Minister for Local Government, Hannah Beasley, has been very vocal recently about, and words to this effect, put the community's interest first, and she was referring in that case to mergers of local governments. She's urging local governments to put the community's interest first and talk about merging or amalgamations. And I have to say, Mr Mayor, I regretted a few months ago withdrawing the motion to invite Shire of Capel to come and join us in talks. I regret that decision. So the Minister has actually encouraged us to do it. She's seen a lot of issues, obviously, as a Minister. So here we are, 6.7%. The per CPI, I don't know, there's different figures, but I'm getting 4.6, 4.8, maybe 5 point something. But from the Treasury's website, it's 4.6%. We're going for 6.7. So in financial matters, Mr Mayor, you've got income in the community, and generally the increase in income, whether it's wages, salary, businesses, charges, generally escalates with the consumer price index. So for someone who's paying all sorts of
Do you want to summarise, Councillor Gasser? Would you like me to
yeah,
move?
that's the last
Would
one.
you like an extra minute?
Mate, 1 minute would be great, please. If that's
I'll
okay.
move that we extend Councillor Gasser to speak for longer. All those in favour, please indicate. Continue, Councillor Gasser.
Hopefully 30 seconds. Mr Mayor, we are asking the community to contribute more money. So where is that money coming from? That's the question. Their income's only increasing, roughly, in this current environment, 4.6%, generally speaking, on average. Over 5 years, their income has not increased 35%. So where is the community going to get this money? The businesses, the businesses that are now, there's a spike in businesses going through restructuring, 200 to 300% increase, talking to their banks now because they are really struggling. And we're going to go and hit them for another $1,000 or $2,000 in rates per year. But 77 empty shops in town, we're going to be asking them to pay $1 million in rates, increased rates, and they've got absolutely no income, huge outgoings, right? So I'll just leave you with a question, Mr Mayor. That $100 fuel voucher that's come from the state government is going to be partly absorbed by our rates rise. But the question, where is the community going to get the extra income above CPI? Is it just going to be pulled out of a hat? Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gasser. Is there a speaker for the executive recommendation? Councillor Smith?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I wasn't intending to speak on this, but I think it's important to note that on page 167 of 252, the CEO and the executive looked at resulting in project expenditure reductions of 3.6 million and a recurrent operating cost saving of 713,000. So I think it's important to note that we just didn't decide to pick a figure out of the air. There has been work done to try and reduce our expenditure on what we do as a council. So for that reason, I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is there a speaker against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Quinn?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Gasser, for enlightening us on all your detail in your debate. As in past years, I suggest a deficit budget of 600,000 to maintain the 5.5% that we agreed in the long-term financial plan. So I will be voting against this motion, and I'm very aware that I believe the community are doing it tough, and any additional expenses to our commercial and residential ratepayers, I won't be supporting this increased rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quain. Is there a speaker for the executive recommendation? Councillor Kozisek?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting the executive recommendation, and as Councillor Smith pointed out, the executive have found some really extraordinary reductions and savings in our operating costs, and I believe that they continue to do this regularly, not just at the end of the year. I have faith that that is their role. I believe that rate increases, unfortunately, are inevitable. Bunbury gives a lot to its ratepayers. We have, and quoting our CEO, we give our ratepayers a really fabulous basket of goods for what they get in return. And if we want to continue to give that fabulous basket of goods, we have to find the money to pay for it. Either that or we start cutting services. And if somebody is happy to start cutting services, can they please let us know which services they would like to cut? Which bits would they like to go so that we can actually continue to operate without increasing our rates? Bunbury is one of the lowest predicted rate increases. You will note on that chart, Harvey's talking about a 10% increase, which I think is quite steep. We're putting aside 1% for asset renewal, and this is extremely important, as Councillor Brown said, because a lot of our infrastructure is over 60 years old, and things that we don't even see, like the drainage pipes and the roads, etc., will all need replacing. We haven't got the money in our reserves to pay for this, and I just think if we don't do something about putting money aside, as former Councillor Betty McCleary used to say, you'll be kicking the can down the road. I think we all remember that. It's all very well to quote Perth CPI at 5.5%, but we are not in Perth. We are a regional city, and the freight costs continue to grow the moment you leave Perth. And I hate to think what the freight costs are for some of the other regional cities up north. I just think that we have to continue to look very seriously at our rates and our rate increases, but I will be fully supporting the executive recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Codsare. Is there a speaker against the executive recommendation? Councillor Ramesh?
I wasn't going to speak because I was just still muddling over Councillor Gabby Gassop's numbers. So I'm not going to talk about the numbers here. Mr. Mayor, I understand that councils face increasing financial pressures, maintaining roads, community facilities, parks, waste services, marine walls, etc., that Councillor Brown has already touched upon. However, we must also recognize the growing pressure already being felt by residents and businesses. Families are dealing with rising mortgage payments, rent, groceries, electricity, insurance, and healthcare costs. Small businesses are also facing higher operating expenses and uncertain economic conditions, especially with the hundreds of rates rises they're getting in various other corners. According to the figures presented, the average residential rate would increase from $2,125 to $2,269, an increase of $1,144 per household. However, the commercial and industrial properties will face even larger increases, with some businesses already paying hundreds more each year. While these figures may appear manageable in isolation, they come on top of many other cost increases people are already carrying. I acknowledge that part of this increase is intended to support the asset management reserve and further infrastructure renewal. Planning ahead is responsible governance, but I believe the community also deserves reassurance that every effort has been made to minimize unnecessary spending, improve efficiency, and prioritize essential projects before passing additional costs on to ratepayers. The current asset management reserve of increase in 1% or additional 1% is on top of the 0.5% that's already being committed on the ratepayers. So that's 1.5% we are looking at. So I would request the council staff, especially the excellent finance team, to relook at the asset reserves, and if there's any scope to reduce it, that will also help the council ratepayers. So Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't be supporting this current rate rise, but I would ask the council staff and the administration to relook at if we can readjust any of the asset reserve to help the residential as well as the commercial businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ramesh. Is there a speaker for? I think everybody's spoken, so that might make some myself. For now, with your leave, councillors, I intend to speak against this recommendation. If you're okay with that, if anyone has a problem with that, let me know now. that's the case, and the only reason I will is that I've heard a couple of suggestions, but I want to foreshadow an alternative motion. I haven't heard anyone foreshadow any alternative motion yet. So if this recommendation is lost, and knowing my maths, that may well happen, but if it is lost, I'll be foreshadowing that we request the CEO prepare the draft budget based on a 6.2% rate increase, which would include 0.5% going to the Asset Renewal Reserve rather than the 1% suggested. The reason I'm suggesting this, councillors, I've heard what's been said, and thank you all for your very informed and very deliberate debates. I respect all those things that are being noted, and certainly would reiterate the fact that the city and the city staff have done an incredible job in reducing our expenditure, both in projects and operational. And they've done a great job in the operations for a number of years now, and hence I'm in not wanting to impact the operational budget at all, but merely looking at what we can do in our asset reserve. We have been contributing to the asset reserve now over a number of years at 0.5%, that we shouldn't be contributing or contribute less to the asset renewal reserve, which is never a great financial position. I also take on board the comments that have been made around the current situation. So there have been a couple of comments made that I do want to touch on in terms of models, and often they're met with a significant punishment. There is always going to be some significant push, but happy for us to forego for services. So I think our team is doing a great job in our climate and the fact that we've got pressure going on. I also wanted to note the comments around the rate increase for those 2 years, which was obviously far less than CPI. So when you extrapolate that out, it obviously has that impact as well. So we are at stage, but not having too much of an impact on our operational budget. That's why I'm suggesting it, and I'm very hopeful that you'll support. So, Councillor Broad to close, and I've foreshadowed.
Also to close, when we compare the Consumer Price Index with low increases across a range of goods and services, local government rate increases are specifically designed to address our community unique needs. Rising operational costs risk underfunding essential services, which I know my fellow councillors have spoken to tonight, which could lead to larger costs and challenges down the line. In closing, supporting the 6.7% that prioritises the long-term health and sustainability of our city, I encourage my fellow councillors to support this recommendation.
Just those in favour again, nice and high, thanks. I think it's 4, yes. And those against? 4 against. I've used casting vote twice in my life and twice tonight. I think this time I will use the casting vote to vote against the executive recommendation. So that recommendation is lost. I did foreshadow an alternative recommendation. I haven't given the wording to the minute taker, so apologies. But if we could get that as written there. Sure. Thank you. I'm happy with how that's written. I'm happy to move that as the foreshadow. Is there a seconder to that, Councillor Ramesh? Look, I don't have anything further to add. Councillor Ramesh as seconder.
Just a quick note to thank you. That was my wish as well, so thank you for the name, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a speaker against this recommendation? Councillor Gassett.
Yeah, completely unexpected, Mr. Mayor. I'm on the public record to go to CPI. It's a bit of doubt on what CPI at the moment is, whether it's 4.6 or 4.8, 5.5. But if people want to use the costs, expenditure costs, well, we can go to the local government cost index, a form of local government cost index, which is, according to our financial manager, it's actually 3.1%. I'm happy to go to 3.1% if we want to talk about costs. Well, you know, these are the facts presented by our staff, 3.1%. Local government cost index, unrelated to CPI, but having said that, over the years, they've actually correlated 23 and 24% over 5 years. Just on principle, Mr. Mayor, I love what you've done, I really do. I need to go a little bit lower, otherwise I'm breaking my promise to the community.
Thank you. Is there a speaker for this recommendation? Nothing to close from me, I've said enough. I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. Those against? 2 against. The recommendation is carried. That amended or alternative recommendation is carried. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we also have a proposed fees and charges. So this is to adopt the fees and charges and put them out for advertising, which will then come back for budget night. Do I have a mover for this? This does require an absolute majority. I will add 2 councillors. Is there a mover to this? Councillor Ramesh, and seconded by Councillor Kozisek. Is there likely to be any debate on this particular item? If that's the case, I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. That is now out for advertising. For those who are interested in fees and charges, feel free to make your comments in, and that'll be considered during budget. There are fees and charges for the services around the city, not fees and charges of waste or any of the likes of that. Okay. 10.4.2, Councillor Broad, I believe you wanted this pulled. Did you have a question, or you wanted to move this?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move it.
Sure. Move it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ramesh. Is there anyone wishing to speak against this item? There's no one wishing to speak against Councillor Broad, but you indicated you wanted to pull it, so I'm happy for you to make some comment.
Recommendation to amend the local planning policy. I feel it's a proactive step towards fostering a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. By enabling home-based businesses to operate effectively, we empower individuals to explore their ideas, contribute to the local economy, and ultimately enhance the vibrancy of our community. I invite my fellow councillors to support this recommendation. Thank you.
There is the opportunity for anyone to speak against, if anyone would like to speak against. If that's the case, I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 10.4.3, councillors. So this does have a confidential attachment. There's a public, obviously, recommendation there. So for members of the public, there's a confidential attachment here which deals with some of the financial information and whatever decisions made shortly. I can read that. But what I will be asking for councillors that we continue with this, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. If somebody wants to discuss or debate some of the items of the confidential appendix, I will ask you to move behind closed doors at that stage, but let's just see how we go at first, and we'll see if we can get this on the table. Is there a mover to the executive recommendation first? Councillor Broad. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kozisek. Now, is there likely to be debate on this item, councillors? Yes, Councillor Gassett.
Mr Mayor, you do have a...
Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Gassett indicated he would like an amendment added, recommendation, so this wouldn't require any amendment or alternative. It's just clarifying that following this advertising period. Broad and Councillor Kozisek, obviously was the mover and a seconded. Do you have any problems with this being part of the recommendation?
No.
You've moved or second? Great, so if that's the case, Councillor Gassett, this can then form part of the executive recommendation as written. Okay, was there going to be any debate on this item?
I'm in support of the recommendation to proceed with option 1 for the proposed disposal of lot 501 and lot 211 on Hollywell Street in South Bunbury. This decision is not just about selling land, it's a decisive move towards addressing the prolonged vacancy that has hindered this area's potential.
With Councillor Broad, I've been in Bunbury for 26 years, and as far as I can recall, that site has been vacant for 26 years, and I think it's a fabulous site that we have so many opportunities to do something with, so I will be supporting option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gassett, speaker against, but...
I'm speaking against, but I'm voting for, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to make the clarification or point that the reason I put that amendment up is I just want to make sure that the community gets the best deal out of any contract, and it would be very much appreciated if we get a third-party review, and maybe one of the major accounting firms. It's not unusual for investments, for contracts in real estate. Can't say too much because there's confidential items in there, but a third party to help moderate any risk. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we have a pivotal decision regarding the future of Lot 501 and 211 on Hollywood Street, a site that has sat vacant for far too long and now represents a vital piece of our community's future. Option 1 is the executive recommendation because it makes underutilised land work hard for our community. It activates a long vacant asset, provides local jobs and directly supports our vision for an integrated, vibrant and well-planned city. Contrast this with our other alternatives. Listing the site as is under option 2 has failed us repeatedly in the past and would likely result in a lower return or risk of land banking. Meanwhile, while option 3 offers a higher theoretical return, it would force the city to act as a developer, requiring a significant capital outlay, high interest loans, and exposing us to full financial risk in an unpredictable market. I urge you to support option 1 and allow us to finally turn this vacant site into a thriving coastal neighbourhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brown.
Mayor, can I just make the point that it should be lot 211 up on the top line, so if we could just get the minute taker just to amend that. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO. Thank you, Director. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Broad, to close.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. In conclusion, this option 1 is not merely a transactional decision, it's a proactive step towards revitalising a long vacant site into a thriving part of Bunbury's future. This decision reflects our commitment to strategic growth, economic resilience and community wellbeing. I urge my fellow council members to recognise the potential of this opportunity and vote in favour of this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the executive recommendation with that additional 0.5 as written. And those in favour, please indicate. That's carried unanimously. So thank you, and thank you for elected members and members of the public. So for your wherewithal, we can now formally say that option 1 was for the city to enter into a joint venture with Scott Park Group, Display Developments Proprietary Limited. They have a submitted proposal for this joint venture at the Punchbowl site for up to 53 residential lots. So this detail of this proposal will now be required through the legislative process to be out for public advertising, and I'm sure we'll be able to release some further information on that in due course. But the gentlemen here are from Scott Park's home, so if they're wearing Scott Park home shirts, it probably made it pretty obvious, but they have now been the option 1 for the city to continue on that next steps. There are a number of steps to go, as I said at the top. This conversation will now go out for public advertising, and all feedback, as well as further information, as Councillor Gassiv has requested, will return to Council for a decision once that process is finished. Thank you. So we have 2 items left to deal with. I think this was just getting some clarity. Item 10.5.2, I'll just get it on the table first. Could somebody happy to move that? Councillor Quain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
As mover?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to move this motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ramesh. Now, did somebody wanted a question? Councillor Ramesh.
Just a clarification. Last week we talked about adding the signage as well as the Pelican Point, Pelican lighting for the crossing Pelican Point. Yeah. So I just wanted some clarification, Mr Mayor, from your team.
CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. I may just pass that to the Director of Infrastructure, who will be able to answer that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yeah, I now can confirm that an application has been put through to Western Power to have the Lux increase that covers the Wombat crossing, and the signage has been arranged.
Thank you. Is there likely to be any debate on this, councillors? Did you want to make any comment, Councillor Quain? I gave the other option again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First, I'd love to thank the staff for all their work on this motion and coming to this recommendation. I'd love to thank the council also for listening to the elected members' motion and going through the process, and thank the CEO for following the process. I think this will be a very welcomed improvement to that crossing. So I would just like to thank everyone that was involved and look forward to it being contemplated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? If that's the case, I'll put that recommendation. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. Before I forget, so councillors, we do need to go back to item 10.3.3. So this was around external members. This had a confidential attachment as well, and there was an indication that a couple of elected members would like to discuss this confidential document. This is about some community representatives on one of our advisory groups. So could I have somebody move that we go behind closed doors? Thank you, Councillor Kozisek, and seconded Councillor Broad. I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. I'll ask if the members of the public and our staff members as well, please, if you're able to leave, besides the CEO and the minute taker, governance can stay. So, members of the public, we are dealing with a confidential matter here. Once we have this conversation and make a decision, if you are still here, you're more than welcome to come back and I'll read the recommendation that's been made. But that's the last item on the agenda. But you're more than welcome to stay and come back in very shortly. Yeah, probably directors too, I think. I might. We might just change the mover and seconder, minute taker, because that was Councillor Cozza seconded by someone. Councillor Ramesh. Anyone else out there, Don? That's it? Just you? I'll read it directly for you. So while we're behind closed doors for members of the public here and anyone online, Council resolved now unanimously, Councillor Cozza second, Councillor Cozza moved, Councillor Ramesh second, that Council appoints the community representatives named in confidential attachment 10.3.3A to the Sister Cities Advisory Group, and they were David Bailey, Renee Lee, Kylie Tucker and Lee Lang Ang. So they are appointed, and that is now the Council resolution. Thank you. I don't believe that brings us to a close. We did have one last, leave come in from Councillor Brown. I think he requested leave. We had two requests for leave, so I thought there was a second one. We'll deal with Councillor Quain first. Somebody happy to move that Councillor Quain is granted leave of absence for that period? Councillor Broad, and seconded by Councillor Ramesh. I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Brown has requested leave for the 16th of July, 31st of July. Is somebody happy to move that? Thank you, Councillor Kozak, seconded by Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Enjoy your break. Councillors, that does bring us to a close at 6:57. Thank you very much, councillors, for a good meeting. Thank you.